Whoa. You feel that? The tension in the air, the silence after the storm, the look on their faces when they realized you did it. One man, one mind, against a whole gang of deceivers, pretenders, and whispering cowards, and you walked right through them. You didn't just fight back. You outthought them. You didn't shout. You moved. You didn't panic. You planned. Yeah, they tried their tricks, their masks, their games of manipulation, but you flipped the board and made them run. Wow, they're scared now, aren't they? Those who once mocked your silence now fear the sound of your footsteps. Every time you breathe calm, they tremble. Every time you stand still, they panic. Because you didn't just survive them. You defeated them with focus sharper than their lies. The question is, are you ready to hear how deep this goes? Because this isn't just a story, it's a warning. It's a message for every soul that's been cornered, betrayed, underestimated, and still stood tall. You're about to witness the mindset of a one-man army, the mindset that broke their spells without lifting a single blade. Yeah, this is where fear flips sides, where silence becomes thunder, where the hunter realizes the hunted is no longer running. Oh, you better stay till the end, because this speech, this storm is for you. For everyone who stood alone and still didn't break. For everyone who turned pain into precision, scars into strategy, silence into strength. And hey, if you feel this energy, drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let them know you're one of the few who didn't fold when surrounded. Let them know you're part of the army that fights in focus, not noise. Because tonight, this isn't just another motivational talk. It's a tribute to the real warriors, the thinkers, the disciplined, the unshakable ones who walk through storms with a calm smile and make the darkness question its own power. Stay till the end. Every line hits deeper. Every word sharpens your edge. Every pause, a test of your patience. This isn't motivation. This is mental warfare. Sometimes silence is louder than every scream they ever planned for you. You know what terrifies them the most? It's not your fists, not your voice, not even the fact that you stood against all of them. No, what shakes their bones is the quiet way you didn't break. The way you just kept walking while they were whispering their spells of doubt, envy, and deception. You didn't argue. You didn't beg. You simply endured. Like a storm that refuses to be named. Oh wow. They thought one man couldn't stand against a gang of shadows, but you did. And the silence that followed your rise, that was the sound of fear being born. See, they didn't expect resistance with rhythm. They expected collapse. They threw words like knives disguised as laughter. They crafted illusions hoping to twist your mind until you turned on yourself, but you didn't. You stood there, eyes steady, heartbeat calm, and you watched them destroy their own reflections. Because when deceit meets clarity, clarity wins every time. They called you a fool, the dreamer, the lost cause. But tell me who's trembling now? Who's rewriting their plans because you refuse to vanish? The witches, yes, those manipulators in masks, they feed off confusion, off chaos. They thrive when your mind doubts its own worth. But you, my friend, learned the art of silence, the power of patience, the weapon of presence. You learned that the loudest one in the room is usually the weakest. Yeah, they wanted to test your limits. They circled you like wolves pretending to be wise. They studied your flaws, your past, your pain. They thought if they pressed the right nerve, you'd snap. But you turned every scar into a map. Every failure is fuel. Every moment of loneliness into strategy. And when you finally moved, it wasn't rage, it was precision. A single move, a single decision, and their entire circle shattered. Oh, the irony. The same ones who claim to control fate, now scrambling to rewrite their own stories. The same ones who mocked your stillness, now haunted by your composure. They can't sleep, because every quiet breath you take reminds them you survived their best shot. You broke their chain of control with nothing but focus. And now they whisper about you, like a myth. How did he do it? What changed? Who taught him? No one. You built your strength in silence. You carved your armor out of restraint. You fought not to destroy them, but to master yourself. That's the real war, the one inside, the one they could never touch. Nah, they'll never admit it, but they know. They see it in your eyes, that calm, cold awareness that doesn't seek revenge, doesn't need validation, just the truth. And truth, my friend, is heavier than any spell they could ever cast. Because the truth doesn't shout. It stands. It endures. It waits. Now, they scatter, afraid to even mention your name in their meetings of deceit. Because the moment they do, the air shifts. The illusion cracks. They remember what happens when one disciplined mind decides to stop running. They remember the night you stopped being their target and became their warning. And if you listen closely, you can almost hear it. That trembling in their tone, that fear behind their arrogance, that faint, desperate hope that you won't rise again. Power isn't always loud. Sometimes it walks out the door and leaves the storm behind. They thought your silence meant surrender, that when you turned your back, it was over. Oh, wow, how wrong they were. What they couldn't understand was that walking away wasn't weakness, it was warfare. You see, when chaos begs for attention, true power responds with distance. You didn't retreat, you withdrew. You didn't lose interest, you removed access. That's what they'll never grasp, that your calm wasn't the end of the fight. It was the beginning of their unraveling. Because the moment you left, their control collapsed. Every trick they built relied on your reaction. Every insult needed your anger. Every rumor needed your defense. But when you gave them nothing, their entire game went silent. That's the thing about manipulators. They don't know what to do with someone who refuses to play. Yeah, that silence, that was your revenge? That composure? That was your victory? They waited for you to explain, to justify, to fight back. You didn't. You let them talk, let them spin their stories, let them create illusions for each other to believe. And the more they tried to pull you back into their web, the more they realized you weren't trapped. They were. You had already moved on to a higher state of control. When you walk away with focus, you force every deceiver to face themselves. That's what they fear the most. Not exposure, not defeat, but self-recognition. When their reflections start showing cracks, when their masks begin to melt, they finally see what they are without your energy to mirror against. And that, my friend, is the kind of punishment no voice could deliver. Oh, the silence after you left burned louder than any war cry. They tried to fill it with noise, with gossip, with accusation, but it didn't matter. You had already proven the point. They needed you more than you ever needed them. That's why they're scared. Because your absence revealed what your presence had been hiding. Their weakness. And that's the paradox of power. When you stop chasing control, you become control. You didn't have to curse, shout, or prove. You simply stopped participating. You became untouchable by doing less, not more. You became unpredictable by doing nothing they expected. You became their nightmare by staying calm. Nah, it wasn't luck. It wasn't a coincidence. It was designed. You trained yourself to master one thing most people never will: restraint. The discipline to not respond when your ego begs for a fight. The strength to let time expose what words never could. That's what separates a fighter from a commander. That's what makes one man stand taller than a whole gang of deceivers. Now look at them scrambling, searching for new ways to provoke, desperate to drag you back into the storm they can't survive without. But you're gone. You've outgrown the noise. You've learned that not every war needs a sword. Sometimes it only needs silence, sharpened by wisdom. And as they stare at the shadow of who you used to be, wondering how to stop your rise, you've already stepped into the next phase. The phase where you no longer fight their darkness. You expose it simply by shining. There comes a moment when silence stops being peaceful and starts being a warning. Oh wow. They thought your silence was over. They thought the quiet meant the fire had burned out. But silence, when owned by strength, becomes thunder waiting for its cue. Every second you said nothing, every step you took in stillness, it wasn't retreat, it was reloading. You didn't disappear, you prepared. And now the same quiet that once calmed the room is the same force that makes them panic when you walk in. Because silence is not the absence of power. It's the control of it. Anyone can shout, few can restrain. Anyone can react, only the strong can decide. You decided not to feed their chaos. You decided not to answer every insult or trap. That decision, that single choice, to rise above their noise, turned you into something they can't define anymore. Yeah, they used to know your buttons, your breaking points, your triggers. Not anymore. You rewired yourself. You stopped being readable. You stopped being predictable. And in their world of manipulation, predictability is the only map they have. You took that map, folded it, and burned it right in front of their eyes. That's why they're lost now. They keep searching for your weakness, not realizing your silence was the cure to it. Oh, they talk louder now, don't they? Accusing, exaggerating, twisting. It's desperation. Because deep down, they know, they feel it, that every word they throw at you comes back heavier. Their lies collapse under their own weight because there's no reaction to hold them up. You've become what they never expected. Untouchable. Not by distance, but by clarity. They say silence is empty, but in your case it's full. Full of awareness, full of control, full of precision. You've learned to speak without words, to warn without shouting, to lead without moving. And now your silence echoes through their halls of confusion like thunder that never strikes, yet still shakes the earth beneath them. Nah, this isn't about revenge. This isn't about proving anyone wrong. It's about proving to yourself that you can stay calm when chaos demands your attention. That's real strength, when restraint becomes your sword. And when you finally decide to speak again, Your voice doesn't just carry sound, it carries authority. They didn't fear your words before, but now every syllable feels like a verdict. Every pause feels like judgment. Every look feels like truth pressing on their conscience. Because silence sharpened your tone into something unbreakable. You became a living mirror, reflecting their darkness back at them without a single insult. And here's the twist. The silence they once mocked is now the silence they imitate. They try to copy your calm, your focus, your unshaken stance. But imitation without discipline collapses fast. They can mimic the face, not the foundation. They can borrow the posture, not the patience. Oh, the tables have turned, haven't they? What they once used to humiliate you has now become the weapon you wield without effort. You didn't fight them. You outlasted them. And in that endurance you became what every manipulator dreads, a mind that cannot be provoked. But remember this, silence isn't just power. It's also my responsibility. When your stillness becomes thunder, the next move decides everything. The strongest strike is the one no one saw coming, especially from the one they thought was done. Oh, wow. They didn't think you'd rise again, did they? They thought silence meant surrender, that thunder without sound meant fear, but they forgot. Silence stores energy, not weakness. It builds pressure, not peace. And when it finally decides to move, it doesn't knock politely, it erupts. The moment you acted, it wasn't noise they heard, it was consequence. The kind of consequence that doesn't scream, it simply happens. When you struck back, it wasn't rage, it was revelation. Every move you made carried calculation, not emotion. Every step forward was rooted in understanding, not impulse. That's what separates the unstable from the unshakable. You didn't hit to harm, you hit to end. And that's what frightened them most. Because while they were busy plotting chaos, you were perfecting precision. You waited. You observed. You mastered the rhythm of restraint until timing itself bowed to your patience. Yeah, they didn't expect that. They thought you'd lash out in fury, lose focus, expose your mind. Instead, you became surgical, cold, measured. Exactly. You turned every insult into intelligence, every betrayal into a blueprint. You read the pattern behind their deceit, and then you flipped it on them without saying a word. That's the art of true warfare, when victory looks effortless because the real battle was fought long before the strike. Oh, you could see the panic ripple through them, couldn't you? The same faces that laughed before suddenly quiet. The same mouths that boasted now sealed shut. They weren't just scared of losing, they were scared of being seen, truly seen. You exposed what they'd been hiding. Dependence. They depended on your distraction, on your reaction, on your energy. And once you reclaimed it, their system crumbled. You see, the one-man army isn't about numbers. It's about mastery. Mastery over impulse, over emotion, over noise. 1,000 enemies can't touch the one who's conquered himself. Nah, they don't understand that kind of dominance. They understand aggression, not alignment. They understand fear, not focus. And that's why your existence disturbs them, because it shows them what they could have been if they weren't slaves to their own chaos. Oh, the irony. The witches who prided themselves on controlling others, couldn't even control their panic when you moved once, just once with purpose. They called it luck, but you and I know, luck doesn't strike with that much precision. That was awareness. That was years of quiet observation turning into one flawless moment of execution. Now they whisper again, not out of arrogance, but out of anxiety. They don't know what you'll do next, and that's your real weapon. Unpredictability. You've become the question they can't answer. Every move you make rewrites the rules of their game. And as you stand there, calm and unmoved, you realize something profound. Your silence, your patience, your restraint. It wasn't just a shield. It was a transformation. You didn't just defeat them. You evolved beyond them. And now the battlefield itself is silent again, but not the same silence as before. This time, it's their silence. The kind born of realization, the kind that follows the fall of pride. So, what happens when the ones who mocked you must now watch you rebuild from the ruins they created? Oh, wow. Did you feel that? That shift in the air, that cold silence after the truth hit them like lightning? They thought you'd stay broken, but instead, you became the storm they can't predict, the calm they can't destroy, the power they can't understand. Yeah, they're scared now. Not of what you'll do next, but of what you've already become. Because once you master yourself, no one controls you again. You didn't just defeat a gang, you defeated fear itself. And that, my friend, is something no witchcraft, no manipulation, no scheme can ever undo. Oh, they can whisper your name all they want. It won't change a thing, because legends don't reply to rumors. They let results speak. You are that result. You're proof that silence can roar louder than chaos. Nah, this wasn't just a win, this was evolution. A message carved into every mind that doubted you. You can't break what's already rebuilt stronger. So here's your tribute, warrior. Yeah, you, the one watching right now. The one who kept walking when everyone said stop. The one who faced entire storms and didn't beg for rescue. You didn't need a crowd. You became your own army. If this hit your soul, drop that comment below. Let them know you're built differently. Let them know you don't chase revenge, you chase mastery. Every viewer here, every fighter in silence, every disciplined soul, this speech was for you. Oh wow. They'll remember your name, not because you screamed it, but because you earned it. You stood tall where others ran. You rose calm while they collapsed loud. You became the echo they can't silence. So remember, stay focused, stay relentless, stay quietly dangerous. Because once they realize who you really are, it's already too late. And to those who doubted you, just smile. Don't explain. Don't prove. Just rise and let the silence remind them you were never the one to fear. You were the one to survive.